Have you ever found yourself at work listening to your coworkers talk about fantasy football and you're just nodding along, but you don't really know what they're talking about? Well, you come to the right place. I'm going to break down fantasy football and how to jump from a rookie to competing for the title. All right. What is fantasy football? So, fantasy football is basically you're just drafting a team made up of real NFL players, and then you're trying to win games based on their performances. You'll get points for catches, depending on what position they are, you know. So if you have a wide receiver who catches 6 passes for 80 yards and maybe 1 touchdown, that'll get you a good amount of points. It'll be a breakdown depending on which league you do. There's a standard PPR, which would be points per reception for the wide receivers. That's the one I typically use and most people typically use. There are some people who would do no PPR, but that way you can get more points. Now, also you want to remember, this is just a fun way to get involved. If you don't really like football or it's never been, a passion of yours, this is a way to have fun with friends, family, or coworkers. Some jobs do a pool or something. If whoever wins, they get, a lunch or money for it. So it's really fun way just to hang out and be around other people or be involved in something. All right, so how do you play? First, you want to join a league. When I've done this in the past, I've done either ESPN Fantasy or there's a Yahoo Fantasy app. Either one works fine. You just would sign in and then you can go to, if you're going to create it yourself, there's a create the league. Or if you're joining someone, let's say one of your friends created it, then you would just go to join a league. And then you would pick, is it going to be PPR, no PPR? So you kind of can go from there on how you want to do it. And then it depends how many people you have. So let's say you and 5 other friends want to do it, then you would select 6 teams. And then which is the most fun part, is the draft. So basically, you're going to draft players. Each person's going to go, and depending on how many people you have, there'll be more rounds, or, there's a certain amount of rounds. So you'll do your first pick, and then the next person will pick, so on and so forth. Some people do random orders. There's different ways you can discuss with your fellow players how they want to do it. But you have a draft, you had a time set, and if for some reason you can't make the draft, you can always do auto. I typically stay away from auto because, they are going to draft just the highest rated player remaining. And you don't always want that because you don't want to have an odd balance of players. I'm going to discuss the type of players you want to get and so on and so forth. The next step you want to do, you're going to be setting your lineup. So first week, all the teams will be playing. So you want to go with, your quarterback, your running back, wide receivers, a tight end. You're going to have a kicker, a defense, and then you're going to have bench players and stuff like that. You're going to have a flex position, and sometimes which could be a running back, tight end, or wide receiver. That's just an extra player to get you some extra points. If you kind of mess up on that, it could mess you up in the future. We'll go into that in a little bit. And then scoring, as I said earlier. So running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, they're going to usually get 6 points per touchdown. They get a point for receptions, yards. Some do every 10 yards, you get a point. So you're going to want to look more into it, but because there's different ways to do it. And then the quarterbacks are going to get yards, touchdowns. If they lose yards or maybe throw an interception, it could affect your points a little bit. So that's how the scoring would work. All right. And then some do's and don'ts. Make sure you research before the draft, just the players, their histories. Now, obviously, there's nothing that's going to predict exactly what's going to happen. So You can draft someone who you've heard their name a lot of times, right? But they have a bad season. You want to know typically who gets injured a lot. I'll use myself as example. In the past, I've always drafted, I've been lucky to draft Christian McCaffrey, or you could say unlucky. He's a very good running back, but he always gets injured, and he'll be out sometimes the whole season, a couple of weeks, a huge amount of time. So drafting a player like that could come back to bite you, because if they're injured a lot, chances are you're not going to have a whole lot of great running backs to begin with. So you want to do a little bit of research on that. Stay active. This is what I was talking about earlier. You want to make sure your lineups are up to date. If your team is on a bye week, which just means they're not going to be playing that week, you don't want your players from that team in your starting lineup, because they're going to get 0 points because they're not playing that week. So you want to keep up with the schedules of the week, just so you know. You want to see if someone got injured. You want to know, okay, I need to pull this person out. I need to go to the waiver, which is basically there'll be some players that have not been picked up in your league. You can go try to select a player from there. Usually there are not going to be too many great ones available, unless let's say somebody takes off. For example, 2 years ago, there's wide receiver Puka Nacua for the Rams. I mean, no one knew him. He was a rookie, and I'm sure he wasn't picked up in any drafts. After first week, he just kept getting better and better, doing great. A lot of receptions, a lot of yards. You can go to the waiver and pick him up, unless someone else has done better research. Then they're going to pick him up before you. So you want to keep up to date with those things if you can. And just remember, at the end of the day, this is just a game. It's just for fun, bragging rights, or just something to keep yourself involved with other people. Some people, stay back to themselves, or they don't really like sports, so they don't really care. And you can kind of miss out on certain topics or conversations with people. So this is just a fun way to, stay in touch with what's going on. Now, don't forget, like I said, this one is very important, because there's a few times I have forgotten to set a lineup, or I just wasn't paying attention. Week came up and they were on a bye week. So that's very important. Every week before the week starts, or your team is going to play, you want to make sure that you edit your lineup. Take out anyone who's been injured. Take out anyone who is on a bye week, And sometimes you're going to have players who they're not really performing. So you could always drop that player, pick up a new player. You can trade with your fellow teammates or their fellow teams inside of your league. So there's a lot of stuff like that. Also, I'm pretty sure most of people know this, but since this is a video for beginners, you don't want to draft just all these players from your favorite team, right? So obviously you can see I'm wearing an Arizona Cardinals jersey. I wouldn't want to draft the running back, the wide receiver, the quarterback, the defense, because if you're picking all these, like I said, 1 week they're on a bye week, now you don't even have many players to replace them with. It's just not the best idea. And then also, don't give up just because you have a bad week. I've done really well, and then playoff time comes, and I have the star who's been shining the whole time just sucks. And then, the team that I'm supposed to beat, they come out and they just kill me or something like that. So don't worry. Every week things can change. You could start off, 0-3, come back and have some great runs. So don't give up, especially because this is just for fun. So there's no point to quit and start saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna keep up with my lineups or this." It just doesn't make sense. It's just for fun. And like I said, you never know what could happen. Depending on how you set up your playoffs and everything, you can make a deep run in the playoffs and, play for money. I've done leagues where we just play for money, just however much you want to do. First place gets a certain amount of money. It's just, like I said, for fun, bragging rights, just something to make the season go by and be a little more fun. Because even though you're obviously not out there playing, you're more invested, because this is your player. This is, representing your team. So you just want to make sure you remember that you're just here to have fun. And, if you win some money, great. If you win, like I said, some people do things where it's like, okay, we'll buy you lunch. whatever. So it's just for fun. Keep that in mind. And I hope this video has been helpful. Go ahead, and if you liked it, subscribe. This is my very first video, so you could have the bragging rights of being my first subscriber if I end up taking off or whatever, and like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed it. And I will be doing videos for fantasy basketball because basketball season is coming up very quickly, and then also some about sports betting apps, parlays mostly, because depending on what area you're in, you cannot do certain types of betting. So I'll have a lot more videos coming through. Until next time, take care and good luck.